Hey guys, tonight we begin with a story that seeps under your skin like sleet down a collar. It's not a war, not a battle, not a crown. It's just winter. Specifically, winter in Dark Age Britain. There's no epic music score, no hero's journey, just damp wool-gray skies and a daily fight to not freeze to death in a house that leaks more than it shelters. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake up under a blanket that smells suspiciously like wet dog and fermented sheep. It's not your blanket exactly. Nothing in this house belongs to you. It's just the one that wasn't already claimed by your cousin, or the chicken that sometimes sleeps on your feet for warmth. Which is nice, honestly. Chickens are excellent heat sources if you can ignore the occasional toe pecking. You're lying on a straw mattress that's lost most of its straw to mice who've used it to build something clearly more comfortable in the roof beams. You feel their little claws skitter above your head every night, and sometimes in your dreams they're the size of wolves. You sit up slowly because your back is one continuous ache, and the ceiling is low enough to scalp the careless. The thatch above you is dripping again. The snow outside is melting just enough to find the gaps in the roof and fall directly on your blanket in a slow, cold plop. A piece of ice lands on your neck like the world's most aggressive alarm clock. You are to be very clear indoors. The fire in the hearth died hours ago. There's no chimney, just a smoke hole in the roof that lets heat out more efficiently than it ever let smoke out. The last embers are faint red ghosts now, and you know someone has to get up and try to restart it before your siblings wake up covered in frost. Guess who that someone is? You wrap yourself in your wool cloak, which was your great-grandfather's, and smells like he may still be wearing it. It's itchy in a way that makes your skin feel like it's protesting your entire existence. You shuffle across the dirt floor, careful not to step on the dog who growls but doesn't move. Smart dog. The firewood is gone. Again. Someone was supposed to gather it yesterday, but it rained and the fields turned into a swamp with ambitions. So you open the door, well the wooden plank, and greet the morning air like it's your worst enemy. Which it is. A wave of cold hits you with the force of a particularly angry god. You can feel it in your teeth. It smells of ash dung, and the kind of damp that seeps into your soul and sets up a campsite. Your feet are instantly soaked because the frozen mud has a layer of melting snow on top, and your boots, such as they are, have holes in places you didn't think boots could even have holes. Outside, the world is colorless. Gray sky, gray trees, gray thatch, gray breath, curling from your mouth like you're trying to exorcise your own ghost. You clomp toward the wood pile. It's more of a suggestion than a pile, really. Just a few frozen sticks, none of them dry. You knock two together, and they clink like rocks. Perfect. You'll need to thaw them near the fire you're trying to build with them. It's the Dark Age version of Catch-22, only colder and with less paperwork. You haul the sticks inside and start blowing on the embers. It's a sacred ritual performed every morning with trembling hands and silent desperation. You add straw, a bit of dried moss, and whisper every curse word you know under your breath. You don't dare speak them aloud, not because of manners, because if your breath hits the straw wrong, the whole thing might go out. Finally, a flicker, a spark. You coax it with the devotion of someone raising a firstborn. Smoke fills the room, thick and immediate. Everyone starts coughing awake. "Thanks, your mother," says hoarsely, not looking up from where she's nursing the baby. You nod. Words are too expensive in the morning. Better to save your breath for not dying. You sit by the fire, holding your hands out like they're the most valuable things you own, which in this world they are. Your fingertips are cracked. One's bleeding. You wonder if it'll get infected again. Your little brother shuffles over and plops down next to you. He doesn't speak either, just sticks his feet dangerously close to the flame. He learned yesterday not to lean in too far. You try not to smile at the memory of the small yelp and the smell of singed hair. Outside, the world is waking up. You can hear someone chopping wood in the next croft, a baby crying, a cow bellowing like it regrets every decision that brought it into this century. The usual. A scholar once wrote that winters in Britain during the early medieval period were survivable. That scholar had a stone house and a cloak without holes in it. You, on the other hand, are contemplating how long you can hold your breath when the outhouse is buried under snow. It's a good day, though. No frostbite yet, no wolves last night, and the fire is finally catching. You'll take your victories where you can get them. You drag yourself outside because unfortunately bodily functions still exist in the Dark Ages, and ignoring them doesn't make them go away. You're bundled in layers of wool and regret stomping through the icy slurry that used to be grass. The frost crunches underfoot like you're stepping on cold bones, and every breath feels like inhaling needles. You reach the back of your family's land, or at least the spot no one else wants to stand near, and behold the latrine pit. It is to be charitable, a hole in the ground, surrounded by a few polite tufts of moss and one very judgmental crow. The toilet in question is just a shallow trench dug into frozen earth, with a couple of flat stones placed nearby as a sort of cruel joke. Someone's made a modest attempt at modesty by hammering a few upright planks in the ground. They lean like drunk soldiers and offer precisely zero protection from wind sight lines or emotional trauma. You consider your options. You could go quickly and risk frostbitten thighs. Or you could wait and endure that very specific stomach twist that lets you know nature doesn't take reservations. You pick the first option. You're not brave, you're just realistic. You crouch. It's not dignified. Nothing in this process is. Your knees are already angry at you for making them bend, and your rear is exposed to air that has strong opinions about nudity. The cold hits like a slap from a nun. Meanwhile, the crow watches. You try not to take it personally. This was, believe it or not, standard practice. Indoor privies existed, sure, but for kings' monasteries or suspiciously well-funded bishops. For the average villager, the morning routine involved heading out behind the livestock pen and hoping the wind didn't change midstream. There's no toilet paper, obviously. You use leaves when you can find them, moss if it's dry, cloth if you're wealthy or reckless or both. Today, it's a brittle fern and a prayer. Once you've survived your business, you scoop some snow to cleanse yourself. It is without exaggeration the most intimate betrayal you've ever experienced. You yelp quietly. The crow cocks its head. You cover the pit with a plank of wood to keep animals and toddlers from falling in. Then you shuffle back toward the house, your limbs trembling from cold and your dignity trailing behind you like an abandoned cloak. Back inside, someone has already started stirring the morning pot. Not cooking exactly, more like reheating last night's sludge. The family's communal cauldron sits in the hearth full of pottage. It's thick brown and glistens in a way that suggests it's seen many things. Its exact ingredients are a mystery. Yesterday, there were parsnips. The day before, a dried bit of something vaguely meat adjacent. Mostly it's barley water herbs and long-forgotten dreams. You're handed a wooden bowl. It's still warm, which is something. You dig in with a spoon that's more splinter than scoop. The pottage clings like guilt. You chew. It doesn't fight back. That's good. You once found a beetle in yours. You named him Gerald and let him go. Everyone eats in silence. The fire crackles. Someone sneezes. No one says, "Bless you, we're not in the Middle Ages," for manners. Outside, the frost thickens. It's the kind that settles on everything, roofs, trees, faces. You can see your breath inside the house. You joke that it's like living in a cloud. Except clouds don't usually smell like goat urine. After breakfast, your mother sends you to the well. The water is still frozen over. You crack it with a stick and draw a bucket up shivering as the icy droplets splash on your hands. Your skin is red raw and starting to crack open in thin, painful lines. You bring the water back with arms trembling like a leaf in wind. Every drop is precious, so you walk like you're transporting royal wine. When you spill a little on the floor, your older sister glares at you like you kicked a saint. Water isn't just for drinking. It's for washing sometimes, for cooking, for dousing the fire when it misbehaves, for blessing the baby when the priest visits. You guard it with your life. As the day progresses, your job is to help re-insulate the house with bracken. The gaps in the walls have widened again. The wind has found them and whistles through like a bard with no sense of occasion. You climb up onto the stool. It creaks ominously under your weight, but you're used to ominous furniture. You stuff the bracken into the gaps while your brother holds the ladder and sings a tuneless song about geese. His breath fogs in the air like a ghost escaping. This home, if you can call it that, is a masterpiece of necessity. The walls are wattle and daub sticks smeared with a mixture of mud, straw, and dung. It insulates about as well as wet bread. But it's all you have, and it's better than nothing. Marginally. There's a faint debate among historians about how effective these materials really were. Some argue they kept heat surprisingly well. Others suggest that's optimistic at best. You personally fall in the I can see my breath indoors school of thought. By midday, your hands are numb. Your feet have gone past pain into the realm of abstract sensation, like two sacks of stones you happen to be standing on. Your cousin tries to warm her fingers by putting them in her armpits, which seems both clever and mildly desperate. To keep spirits up, someone tells a joke about the neighboring village's goat. It's not a good joke, but it passes for entertainment. In a world without books, songs, or YouTube, you take what you can get. You huddle near the fire again as the sun sinks below the tree line. You think it's around 4 o'clock, but time has no real meaning here. There's no clock. Only smoke dark and the increasingly urgent sense that if someone doesn't find more firewood soon, you'll all be turning into medieval popsicles by morning. So you go out again. This time, the cold cuts deeper. The air smells metallic. Your breath fogs in front of your face like a dragon with a sinus issue. The sky is pink at the edges, which is either beautiful or a sign of frostbite hallucination. Maybe both. You find a fallen branch. It snaps cleanly, frozen solid. You break it down with numb hands and trudge back, fingers bleeding slightly. You don't really notice anymore. Inside, You place the wood beside the hearth. It steams gently defrosting. Someone adds dried moss. Someone else whispers a thank you. It's not much, but it's something. The hut smells of smoked cabbage and the dog's particular brand of loyalty. You wrap yourself in a blanket and lean back against the wall. You survived the morning. Congratulations. Only about 60 more days of this left. You wake again, just as the fire hiccups back into life. Someone tossed on a damp log, and now the whole hut smells like wet dog and burnt mold. It's fine. You're used to it. The warmth, such as it is, kisses your cheeks, and then immediately disappears, replaced by the cold fingers of morning air poking under your cloak. You blink your crusty eyes and take inventory 10 fingers, probably 10 toes, and a gnawing ache in your stomach that means it's time for breakfast. That word. Breakfast. It promises so much, doesn't it, pancakes? Toast. Maybe a scrambled egg or two. Now forget all that. Here in the fog-soaked limbo of post-Roman Dark Age, Britain breakfast is less meal and more continued punishment. You sit cross-legged on the earthen floor. Your bowl is a cracked bit of pottery your uncle swears once belonged to a Saxon king. Judging by the soot stains and faint odor of turnips, the king wasn't eating well either. Your mother ladles a slop of something vaguely porridge-like into your bowl. It's barley again. Always barley. Barley that's been soaked, boiled, reheated, and occasionally blessed, though not recently. If you're lucky, it has a trace of dried apple skin from last autumn's harvest. If you're unlucky, it has a weevil that didn't notice it was supposed to evacuate. No one says, grace. You've all lived through too many breakfasts for that. You pick up your spoon. It's wooden and carved at a strange angle because your older brother made it during a fever dream last winter. You try to eat quickly before the pottage congeals into something legally considered masonry. It's warm, at least. That counts for something. The truth is, you're not hungry. You're always hungry. Hunger is your normal. It's not a sharp pain anymore. It's more like background noise, like the wind in the trees or the groaning of your grandfather's knees. Barley again, your cousin mutters, squinting into her bowl as though she expected a miracle today. Could be worse, you whisper. Could be nettle soup. She nods. Nettle soup was last week. Someone forgot to soak the leaves properly, and you're still itching in places no one wants to itch in the middle of winter. You scrape the last bits from the bowl and try not to look at your sibling's portion. It's smaller than yours. You could share it, but you don't. Not because you're cruel, because you remember the last time you gave away your breakfast. You fainted in the fields an hour later and woke up with a priest yelling Latin at your forehead. The Dark Ages were not kind to the weak-stomached or soft-hearted. You step outside after breakfast to check the trap line. There's a chance slim laughable that something might have stumbled into one of the woven snares set near the tree line. Maybe a rabbit, maybe a squirrel, maybe an irate badger. All three have happened before. Today it's empty, except for a suspicious-looking clump of your own hair snagged in the cord. You sigh. Even the wildlife's given up. You head back, glancing at the sky. Still gray. Always gray. Somewhere above the clouds is a sun, allegedly. You haven't seen it in 3 weeks. Back inside, your aunt is preparing the next round of pottage. It's a team effort, really. Your job is to sort through the lentils. Well, the things pretending to be lentils. They're pebbles, mostly. But one or two might be edible. You sit cross-legged near the fire, with a small pile of grit and disappointment in front of you. You pinch each item, feel it between your fingers, and toss the worst offenders into a bowl marked goose feed. You're not sure you even have a goose. Do we still have the salted fish, you ask, not looking up? No, your mother answers without emotion. No explanation, just no. Which means the fish either spoiled, got eaten during the night, or developed sentience and ran away. You don't press further. Salted anything is a rarity these days. Salt costs more than your house, and the nearest salt works is 2 counties away. Besides, you already traded your extra cloak last month for a block of lard that turned out to be soap. That was a rough stew. Historians like to argue whether Dark Age diets were sufficient for survival. They say things like a reliance on grain made for a stable caloric intake. That's true. You're very steadily starving to death on grains. What about meat? Yes, meat existed. So did unicorns, according to some of the monks. You might see meat at Midwinter, or on your wedding day, or at your funeral, though you won't be the one eating it. There was that one time 2 winters ago when a deer got stuck in the ice. Everyone ran out with knives and hope. That was the best week of your life. You had venison stew, bone broth, even a little marrow. You still dream about it. You also still have the scar from when your cousin bit you trying to take the last rib. The memory is warm, warmer than your hands are right now. Your father comes in, hauling a bundle of roots and one suspiciously limp carrot. He grunts. That's his way of saying hello. He drops the bundle near the hearth and begins to rub his hands near the fire. They're cracked and bleeding slightly, his nails blackened by soil and frost. You glance at the roots. They're turnips. Of course, they're always turnips. You once heard a traveling bard say that in Rome, breakfast included fruit cheese and wine. You asked what wine was. He said it's like ale, but fancier. You asked what cheese was. He laughed and said, you wouldn't believe him. Cheese, a mythical dairy brick only bards and bishops speak of. Lunchtime approaches, though time itself is a vague concept. You eat when there's something hot. That's the only rule. Your sister adds the chopped roots to the pot. They sizzle slightly, though it's more hiss than sizzle. The fire likes to play hard to get. You dip a chunk of bread into your bowl. The bread is old. You knock it against the table, and it makes a sound like someone dropped a rock. It was baked 2 weeks ago, maybe longer. It has a hint of green around the edges, but you tell yourself, that's just herbs. You chew carefully. If you break a tooth, that's it. There are no dentists in the village. The last person who tried to pull a molar ended up with a concussion and no molar. You learn to chew slowly. As you eat, you stare into the fire and imagine other foods. Apples, honey, maybe a hot meat pie. You've never had a meat pie. Your cousin once described one from a festival in the big town. He said it was like biting into a dream. You believe him. You scrape your bowl clean and lick your spoon. Not because you're rude, because there might still be a trace of flavor on the wood, and that counts as seasoning. Full, sort of, warm, briefly. You lie back on the floor and close your eyes. For a moment, the cold is held at bay by steam and imagination. And then someone opens the door again. You scream. You scream because for half a second you thought it was a wolf, or a raider, or death itself in a hood with a frozen smile. But it's just your uncle. He's returned from whatever errand he deemed more important than basic survival, wrapped in a cloak that may once have been a curtain. He smells like sheep and old rain. Snowflakes cling to his eyebrows like tiny ice demons. He looks at your startled face and chuckles. Jumpier than a hare in a stew pot. He says, shaking off snow like a wet dog. You don't respond. You're too busy trying to figure out if your heart has restarted. Your uncle tosses a bundle onto the table. Rags, mostly. But inside is something miraculous. 2 lumps of waxed cloth. Layered stiff and unmistakably warmish. Winter gear, sort of. You don't ask where he got it. You don't want to know. Because it's time now. Time to go outside. For real. There's firewood to gather. Again. There's always firewood to gather. Your home eats it like a dragon eats nights. You wrap yourself in every tunic shawl scarf and possibly 1 curtain. Layering is key. So is delusion. Outside, the cold hits harder than before. The wind has sharpened its edge overnight. It slices through your outer layers like you're a walking bundle of disappointment. You try not to breathe too deeply. The air freezes your nostrils shut. You shuffle into the woods beyond the field, stepping carefully to avoid rabbit holes, frozen puddles, and the occasional cowpat preserved in icy perfection. The trees groan like they're tired of standing, and you understand. You find a branch. Not a log. A branch. It's wet, half rotten, and clinging to the earth like it doesn't want to go home with you. You yank. It snaps. Progress. You drag it back through the snow, leaving a sad little trail behind you. Your fingers stop feeling like fingers halfway home. Inside, you toss the stick on the pile and hold your hands over the fire until they tingle. This might be circulation returning, or it might be the first stage of frostbite. There's no chart to consult. Fetch more straw for the beds, your mother says, not unkindly. Straw for the beds. Right. Your house doesn't have real mattresses. No one's does. Beds are piles of straw stuffed into cloth sacks if you're lucky. If not, it's just straw. You sleep on what amounts to fancy barn flooring. Over time, the straw flattens molds and becomes a micro-ecosystem of bugs, sweat, and despair. Every few days, you refresh it. Or add more on top and pretend that's the same thing. You head to the shed, grab a bundle of dried straw, and bring it back. The old straw gets dumped out behind the hut compost bedding for animals, or just forgotten. You fluff the new straw into the sleeping corners, patting it down like it might magically soften. It won't. But it smells marginally better than the last batch, which is nice. This is what comfort looks like in the Dark Ages. Evening descends early. It always does in winter. The light dies in the sky, like it's embarrassed to be here. Shadows stretch long and cold, and the wind picks up again, howling across the hills, like something ancient and deeply unimpressed. You prepare for the night. The outer layer of your clothing stays on. So does the second, third, and fourth. You wrap your feet in cloth and nestle them under the dog, who accepts this arrangement with a sigh. You eat again. More pottage. Surprise. This time, there's something extra in its shredded turnip, or perhaps an unlucky root vegetable that lost its way. It tastes of earth and ambition, but it's warm. You're grateful for that. Someone brings out the candle. Singular. It's made of tallow-rendered animal fat. It smells profound. You don't light it unless you have to. Tonight you have to. Your older sister is mending a tunic, and your grandfather insists on reciting a tale. One of the old ones, full of bog creatures, wise women, and unfortunate kings. You listen partly because it's tradition, and partly because the story is older than the draft in the window. Scholars argue whether oral tradition was really that strong in early Britain. You can confirm it's less about tradition and more about having nothing else to do. You listen because your choices are story or lie very still and think about snow. The candle gutters as the tale finishes. A shadow moves across the room. You all freeze for a second. Superstition is stronger in winter. But it's just the cat. You think. Probably. The wind moans louder now. The house creaks a low, groaning protest from timber and daub. The fire flickers like it's second-guessing its own existence. You crawl into your straw bed. The new straw itches. Always does. You shift, adjusting the layers. Someone's elbow ends up in your ribs. The dog growls dreams and kicks. Your breath clouds the air. Frost begins to form on the inside of the walls. You think back to something you overheard once, that somewhere monks are copying books by firelight in thick robes in quiet rooms. Books you'll never see. Fires you'll never share. You pull your cloak over your nose and try not to think about the cold. It seeps in anyway. Through the cracks in the walls, through the gaps in the floor, through every inch of your layered defenses. The night is long, dark, and endless. You'll wake at least twice, teeth-chattering, cheeks numb. And if you're lucky, no one will die before morning. That's what you count as luck these days. You drift off thinking about soup. Not what's in it. Just the idea of it. You don't wake up so much as thaw out. The first thing you notice is your jaw clenched so tightly it aches. Then your fingers curled into your palms like they've been protecting something valuable, though they're empty. Your breath rises in tiny puffs, and the straw around your face is coated in a fine layer of frost. That's a bad sign. You're still inside. The fire is out again. Not just low out. The hearth is cold. No glow, no embers, just a blackened pile of wood that didn't quite make it to dawn. You sit up slowly, blanket falling away in a stiff fold. The air hits your skin like an insult. Your little brother is already awake. He's wrapped in the blanket like a shivering burrito and chewing on something that might once have been bread. His face is pale and snotty. You give him a nod, and he gives you a single blink in return. He's conserving energy. Smart. You throw on your cloak, which has frozen into the exact shape it was left in, and shuffle over to the fire pit. You poke it with a stick. Nothing. Not even a rebellious spark. You sigh and begin the sacred, miserable dance of starting the fire again. The wood is damp. It always is. The moss is reluctant. The straw refuses to cooperate. You blow, pray, mutter, and finally cheat by snapping off a bit of the dried rush torch from the wall. It catches. The warmth is pitiful, but psychological, a flicker of orange light. Your mother appears silent, handing you a chunk of something that might be hard cheese or softwood. It's breakfast. You chew. It squeaks. You swallow anyway. The day's first task is upon you. Firewood. Again. Not because it's a choice. Because without it tonight you die. That's not exaggeration. That's not melodrama. That's just physics. You've burned through the pile. Literally. Now it's time to gather more. You trudge out into the woods again, through snow that crunches like teeth. The sun, if you can call it that, is barely more than a smudge in the cloud-thick sky. Visibility is poor. Your hands are worse. This time you bring a hatchet. It's dull. More suggestion than blade. But it's yours. It belonged to your grandfather, and possibly his grandfather before that. You suspect it's chopped more fingers than trees. You hold it tight and head for the nearest cluster of elder trees. Cutting firewood in winter is an act of defiance. The wood doesn't want to be cut. The bark is slick, the limbs are frozen, and every strike of the hatchet sends a tremor up your arms that makes your teeth rattle. But you keep going. breath-steaming hands trembling. A distant howl cuts through the woods. Wolf? Probably not. Maybe. You don't stop to check. You gather what you can, twigs fall and branches. And one half-rotted stump you wrestle from the ground like you're battling an old god. You tie it all together with a strip of leather and heave it onto your back. It's heavier than expected. Your spine cracks audibly, and you accept this as your new reality. You trudge home. The wind picks up again, swirling snow in small, mocking flurries. Your eyelashes freeze together briefly. You blink them apart and keep walking. At the threshold of your home, you pause. The hut is smaller than you remember, colder. You step inside and drop the bundle by the hearth like a trophy. Dry this first, your sister says, nudging the driest bits aside. You nod. Words are for people with spare breath. Your reward for gathering the firewood, a bowl of hot water. Not tea, just water. Heated slightly with maybe a hint of bark for flavor. You sip it like it's wine. Lunch is still hours away. You keep the fire going and sit near it like a moth with knees. Your hands are raw. You press them against your thighs and pretend they're not splitting open. Midday comes with no ceremony. A neighbor stops by. He's wrapped in so many layers he looks like a bale of wool. His nose is red, his eyes weepy. He wants to borrow firewood. You laugh, then realize he's serious. Your mother gives him 2 sticks. She shouldn't, but she does. This is how the village works. Mutual survival. Barely. You give firewood now. Maybe tomorrow someone gives you a rabbit leg, or doesn't kill you when you trespass. You nod politely at the neighbor and close the door behind him. More pottage for lunch. It has something different in it. You hope it's a mushroom. You hope it's not a mushroom. The fire crackles, grateful for your sacrifice. The room is warmer now. Not warm. Warmer. You take this chance to mend your boots. One has a hole the size of a baby's fist. You don't have leather, so you patch it with cloth and desperation. Your sewing is terrible. You jab your finger twice and bleed a little. That's fine. Red is a lucky color. Boot mended, you pull on your cloak again. Time to check the livestock. That is the 2 chickens and the pig that technically belongs to the Lord, but lives in your yard. The chickens are fine, feathered little heaters. The pig is shivering. You pat it on the head and it grunts. It might eat better than you, honestly. You toss it a rind of turnip. It looks at you with mild disappointment, then eats it anyway. You understand this feeling. You return inside just as the sky starts darkening again. Already. It's barely afternoon. Inside, your sister is heating stones near the fire. Bed warmers. She wraps them in cloth and places them in the straw beds. They won't last long, but they might keep the frost away from your toes for an hour or 2. Your father speaks for the first time today. He's decided to insulate the walls with dried dung. It works, apparently. You don't argue. He hands you a bundle and a trowel. You spread it on the inner wall like butter. Smelly, earthy, mildly awful butter. It steams slightly as it hits the cold wall. A satisfying hiss. You feel strangely accomplished. Dinner is better. Someone found an onion. It's been added to the pot. The smell is intoxicating. It's just one onion chopped into oblivion, but it transforms the pottage into something resembling food. You eat slowly, savoring. You chew each bite like it might be your last. The fire burns bright tonight. You all sit around it, wrapped in blankets and shadows. Your grandfather tells another story, this one, about a king who buried a fire demon under the earth and cursed the land with endless frost. No one questions the logic. It feels true. You go to bed early, not because you're tired, because it's the only way to be warm. You lie down on the new straw, which still itches, but now has a faint onion aroma. Not bad. You curl up, blanket over your head, feet pressed to your sister's back. You whisper a quick hope, not quite a prayer, that the fire stays lit, the snow stays outside, and the pig doesn't come in again. You close your eyes and listen to the wind, to the fire, to the sound of surviving. One day at a time. By the time you open your eyes, the pig is already inside. Again, it's made itself comfortable near the hearth, curled in a patch of ash like it owns the place. No one moves it. No one even looks surprised. The pig offers warmth, and in the Dark Ages, warmth outranks etiquette every single time. You shift slightly in your straw bed, dislodging a mouse. It scampers away under the loom, in the corner, offended but alive. You stretch slowly, carefully. Any sudden movement risks a sprain, a yelp, or both. Your joints have the consistency of an old door hinge, stiff, reluctant, and prone to making sounds no body part should make. Your clothes, of course, are still on. You sleep in them, live in them, and will likely be buried in them. You pull your outer cloak tighter and sit up, wincing at the cold bite of morning air, slipping in through every possible crack. The fire's still alive. Barely. Someone kept it going through the night. Probably your older brother, who's asleep now, with his foot dangerously close to a smoldering log. You nudge it away. No one wants another toe incident. It's your turn to fetch water. You groan quietly and push yourself up, grabbing the bucket and what passes for boots. They're mostly leather patches stitched together with twine and good intentions. Your feet slide in with all the elegance of someone stuffing a cold sausage into a wet sock. Outside, the world is glazed in white. Not fresh snow ice. Everything has a thin crust, like the land tried to preserve itself for some bleak archaeological exhibit. Trees shimmer with frost. The ground crunches like bones. Your breath puffs out in rhythmic clouds, quickly fading into the pale dawn. You walk carefully to the well, one foot in front of the other, like a drunk on a tightrope. The well isn't far, but the journey feels eternal. Each step is a gamble. The path has frozen unevenly, and you know from painful experience that one misstep means a fall, a bruise, and potentially a month of hobbling around like a cursed pilgrim. When you arrive, the bucket rope is stiff with frost. You crank it slowly, arms aching with each turn until the familiar splash below confirms the water isn't entirely frozen. Yet, you lower the bucket, listening to it knock against the stone walls like a bell tolling for your already bruised spine. Drawing water in winter is an underrated form of torment. The bucket rises heavy, sloshing ice water over your hands as you carry it back. The cold stings, then numbs. By the time you reach the door, your fingers feel like they're made of someone else's regrets. You pour the water into the family's storage jug. There's no hot tap, no filter. If you want warm water, you heat it. If you want clean water, you pray. Breakfast is the usual barley pottage, reheated to the point of boiling, then cooled just enough not to scald your tongue. The flavor profile sits somewhere between charred field and boiled sorrow. But it's filling, mostly. You sit by the fire with your bowl legs drawn up, cloak around your shoulders, steam rising from your breath and your breakfast. Your father decides it's time to repair the roof. A section of thatch collapsed last night. Snow leaked in onto the goat's corner. The goat was displeased and vocal about it. It's been glaring ever since. So up you go. You and your brother climb onto the roof, slipping and sliding on the frosty straw. The thatch is slick frozen and inclined to betray you at the worst moment. Your brother mutters something about worse than the Viking raid under his breath, which is likely a joke. Probably. Repairing thatch is not glamorous. You tie bunches of straw together, cram them under the older layers, and hammer wooden pegs into place. Every movement is a fight against numb fingers and the ever-present threat of sliding off and landing face first in the midden pile. At one point, you sneeze and nearly die. But eventually, the patch holds. You climb down, muddy sore, and covered in straw, like a particularly unconvincing scarecrow. Lunchtime, or at least time for more pottage. You swear it tastes slightly different. Maybe someone added wild herbs. Or maybe the pig coughed near it. Either way, it's hot and edible. You don't ask questions. This afternoon, you're on ash duty. Ash from the hearth is collected and stored in clay pots near the door. It has uses: cleaning, preserving food, making lye for soap, which you rarely use. You're not even sure what clean smells like anymore. You sweep the cold gray remains of last night's fire into a shallow bowl, careful not to stir up too much dust. Your hands tremble from the cold, and the ash clings to your skin like it's trying to be permanent. Outside, the wind picks up. Again. It screams across the fields, bending the trees, rattling the shutters, and slamming into the side of the hut like a very persistent god demanding attention. Your sister stuffs more moss into the window cracks. You help. It's either that or be turned into a human icicle by dinner time. The conversation around the fire tonight is hushed. Your neighbor lost a child. Fever. Started yesterday. Gone by morning. No one says much. There's no use crying. The tears would just freeze. Instead, you pass the cup around hot ale spiced with whatever someone foraged last week. It burns going down. You welcome the burn. Your grandfather hums an old tune, a funeral song but soft. His voice is cracked and shaky, but the notes hang in the air like breath. Then silence. And then just faintly, the sound of bells. Not real ones. Not church bells. Icicles clinking together in the wind. Still it feels holy. You go to bed early. Again. No stars tonight. Just cloud wind and darkness so thick it feels like another layer of wool. You lie down, blanket over your head. The faint warmth of your siblings pressed in around you like a wall. The pig is back. You smell it. No one moves. You exhale. The fire pops quietly. You survived another day. And somehow, impossibly tomorrow, you'll do it again. The pig snores. Loudly. And somehow that's comforting. It means you're not dead. It means the fire's still burning. It means for now, everything in this cramped, freezing hovel is exactly as it should be. Miserable, smoky, crowded, and most importantly, alive. You blink crust from your eyes and inhale a lungful of that uniquely medieval aroma, ash-unwashed humans' fermented goat hair, and... is that onions? You're not sure, but you'll take it. Morning has arrived again, dragging with it the same old concerns, namely, heat, and the fact that you don't have any. The fire's low. Again. Always. You feel a gentle chill at your back, the kind of chill that announces it's going to live inside your bones for the next few hours. The hut is quiet, except for the soft breathing of bodies bundled together like firewood, and one child coughing intermittently like a small engine with bad fuel. You wriggle out from the warmth of your sleeping spot, which is mostly straw animal fat residue, and family elbows, and pull your cloak tight. Your first task isn't glamorous, but it's necessary. It's time to let the livestock out. You unlatch the door and are immediately met with a gust of wind that slaps your face with the same emotional energy as a disappointed nun. You squint through the gray. The animals are awake. Sort of. The chickens blink at you with blank suspicion. The goat snorts, clearly displeased with your lateness. The pig, your uninvited guest and heat source, grunts and slowly heaves itself toward the door like a furry war machine. You guide them out, one by one, careful not to slip on the iced-over threshold. The pen outside is simple woven sticks, half collapsed, coated in frozen mud and past regrets. Still, it does the job. You toss them some feed, withered vegetable ends, dried moss, and something your sister insists is oats. The pig seems unconvinced, but eats anyway. The goat glares. The animals live better than you some days. Their bodies radiate warmth, they don't know shame, and they're allowed to urinate wherever they want. Luxury. You glance up. The sky is a dull leaden gray typical. The clouds hang low like a warning. Snow again. You sigh through your nose, which immediately regrets it. The moisture freezes at the edges. You rub your face with the rough sleeve of your cloak and return to the hut hoping for something hot. And inside, a miracle. Steam. You rush to the hearth. Someone your mother, judging by the intensity of her brow and the singed ends of her braid, has managed to coax the fire into life and placed a shallow pot atop it. Inside, an actual stew, with actual chunks. You peer closer. Carrots, lentils, bits of something unidentifiable, but definitely not from a root. You raise an eyebrow. Is that meat? Your mother doesn't look up. Rabbit. You almost weep. Someone caught something. Set a snare last night, maybe. Found it huddled by a hedge. Doesn't matter. What matters is that tonight's meal will have flavor, protein, hope. You sit down beside the fire and bask in the scent. Even the pig sniffs the air with a grunt of admiration. It won't be ready for hours, so you help in the only way you can. By fixing the animal insulation. See, it's not just people who huddle in the hut during winter. It's the livestock, too, at least the important ones. The animals take up space, yes, and drop excrement freely, also, yes. But they offer something you desperately need: body heat. So you gather straw, shove it around the base of the wall to create a makeshift animal bed, and lure the chickens back inside with grain and soft whispers. They oblige. The goat hesitates, then saunters in with a huff. The pig, already halfway in, flops beside the hearth with all the grace of a fallen log. This is how warmth works in your world shared. Unearned, often stinky. And it's not just your family. Everyone in the village does it. You've heard that some Roman homes had underfloor heating, that they bathed in warm water even in winter. You can't quite picture it. Water that stays warm inside. On purpose. No, you have goats. The day's main project is building a windbreak. The northern gusts have picked up again, and the cold's starting to sneak in faster than the fire can push back. So you and your brother haul reeds from the edge of the bog and begin weaving them into a crude screen. It's hard work. Your hands sting. Your feet throb. But the reeds bend willingly, and by noon you've built something that might, in theory, confuse the wind. You step back and admire it. It leans a little, but so do you. You eat lunch late. Pottage again. But with that hint of rabbit. It's glorious. You close your eyes while chewing, imagining roast dinners, dripping fat, the crisp skin of poultry. You've never had most of those things, but dreams are cheap, and you're very rich in those. That afternoon, you sit by the fire with the youngest siblings. They're quiet today, subdued by cold or hunger, or just the dark heaviness of winter. You braid some straw into a new broom, then teach them how to weave fingerless mittens from spare cloth. They giggle. You smile. The hut feels less cold somehow. Your father comes in, carrying bark from a fallen tree. Birchlight and flammable. It will burn fast, but bright. He drops it near the hearth with a grunt and sits heavily on the bench. You toss a log on the fire. It flares. Shadows dance on the walls. For a moment, the room is orange and golden and full of movement. Then it settles again, glowing softly, like a secret you all get to share. Dinner is quiet, reverent even. Everyone eats slowly, savoring the rabbit like it's the first meal in weeks. It's not, but it feels that way. The meat is stringy, a little tough, but tender compared to your usual root slop. Afterwards, you feel full in a way that's rare. Your limbs are heavier. Your breath is deeper. You lean against the wall, warm from fire and food and proximity. Someone plays a pipe, a crude whistle carved from bone. A simple tune, circular and hypnotic. Your grandfather hums along. No one speaks. The hut creaks softly in the wind. The fire crackles. A chicken coos in its sleep. You let yourself close your eyes, just for a moment. And when you open them again, hours have passed. The fire's low again. The wind howls. But inside, the warmth lingers. The pig snores. And you somehow are content. The pipe music lingers in your memory long after it's stopped. You wake with it echoing in your mind like a dream that refuses to leave. For a moment, in the space between sleep and cold reality, you think you're warm. You're not. Your nose is the first to betray you. It's frozen, like genuinely stiff. You touch it gingerly and recoil. Then your toes start complaining. Not with pain, no, that would be too expressive. With a numb throb that suggests they've begun drafting a resignation letter. The fire's out again. Of course, you lie still trying to preserve what little body heat remains. Around you, the others stir. You hear someone cough. Someone else groans. The goat shifts and sighs like an old man who's seen too much. Then the pig sneezes directly into your sister's hair. She doesn't flinch. This is just life now. Your mother rises first. She always does. She moves with the quiet grace of someone who hasn't had uninterrupted sleep in 20 years. She starts stirring the coals, coaxing the tiniest ember into something more useful. You sit up and wrap yourself in your cloak. Today is washing day. Or, more accurately, freezing cold water poured on your body, followed by immediate regret day. There's no bath, no basin, no privacy. There's just a wooden tub near the hearth filled with water drawn earlier and warmed as much as firewood rations allow. You undress slowly, teeth already chattering in anticipation. Everyone else goes about their business. Modesty is a luxury for rich people in storybooks. Here, it's all elbows, knees, and practicality. You step in. The water is lukewarm at best, but compared to everything else, it's a blessing. You scrub with a cloth dipped in lye soap. It smells like boiled cow and justice. The lye stings every crack in your skin, every cut you forgot to bandage. You hiss but keep going. Clean is not about comfort. Clean is about survival. Fleas are a constant in your life. They live in your clothes, your bedding, your hair. Washing is one of the few ways to keep them from staging a full-scale rebellion. You don't kill them all, just remind them who's in charge. When you're done, you stand shivering as your sister hands you a stiff towel. It's about as absorbent as tree bark, but you make do. You dress quickly, layer after layer, until you're reasonably sure the cold can't reach your skin directly. That's when the knock comes. Well, not a knock. A thud, really. Someone's at the door. Your brother opens it. A man stands there, hunched against the wind, his face half covered in a wool scarf. He says something about the northern road being blocked. A tree fell. No one can get through to the next village. Supplies delayed. Again. Your mother nods. She expected this. You all did. This is how it is in winter. The outside world shrinks. Roads vanish beneath snow and silence. Your village becomes your whole universe, and if it runs out of something, wood food news, you simply go without. You wonder how the monks are doing. The ones in the big stone priory. They have books, you hear, and fire, and honey. One of them once passed through the village and gave you a nut, a single candied nut. It tasted like wealth. You return to your chores. Today you're grinding grain. The quernstone is in the corner, 2 slabs of rock you turn by hand with barley between. Your arms ache within minutes. The sound is constant, a low, grinding rhythm that matches your mood. You think about Roman mills, about oxen-powered wheels and flowing aqueducts. You have 2 stones and an unrelenting need to make flour. Eventually, you get enough to bake, if you can call it that. Your sister shapes the dough water barley flour and a bit of last week's yeast into discs and lays them on the hearthstones. They cook slowly, steaming faintly. You flip them once. They come out tough but warm. Flatbread. Dry. Dense. Delicious by comparison. You eat in silence, savoring the warmth more than the flavor. Then it's time to tend to the clothes. Laundry is rare. Clothes are valuable. You own 2 tunics. Maybe 3 if you count the one made from old curtain. Washing is done sparingly, and only when the lice situation becomes unbearable. Today you boil them in a pot over the fire with ashes and soap. The steam fills the hut. It smells sharp, almost clean. You stir the pot with a stick, watching your shirt swirl like a sea creature. Later you'll hang them on a line near the fire and hope they dry before they freeze again. Outside, the snow begins to fall. Heavy flakes drift down like a curse. The world grows quieter with each flake. Sound becomes muffled. The village disappears house by house until you feel alone in a snow globe someone keeps shaking out of spite. You stand in the doorway, watching it fall. You've heard tales of places where snow is beautiful, where people ski and skate and build whimsical men with carrot noses. You've never built a snowman. You once built a snow fort, but it collapsed and broke your cousin's ankle. He still walks funny. You still feel guilty. Back inside, the air is warmer. The fire's strong tonight. The pig is especially relaxed. Your mother is darning socks. Your grandfather is telling a story about a winter even worse than this one. You're skeptical, but you listen. Something about that night feels quieter. Not sad, not peaceful, just still. Your brother leans against your shoulder. The baby sleeps in a sling. Your sister hums a lullaby so old no one remembers the words anymore. Outside, the wind moans. But inside, for now, you're safe. You survived another day. You'll survive the next. And maybe, if the snow stops, just maybe spring might find you. By now, your body's developed a rhythm. A winter rhythm. Wake, shiver, feed fire, feed self, survive, sleep, repeat. You don't need a rooster or the sun or even much reason anymore. You just do the things, because if you don't, the cold notices, and it's always looking for a weakness. This morning begins with a draft, a special kind of draft. Not the usual whisper through the thatch or the cheeky gust under the door. No, this is a malicious, full-bodied gust slicing straight across the room like it owns the place. You groan, sit up, and follow the wind to its source. The window shutter, it's open. Not broken, just swinging on its leather hinge like it's mocking you. Someone forgot to tie it shut last night. Probably your cousin, possibly you. You reach for it, fingers numb and stiff, and shove it closed with a firm thud. The leather loop cracks from cold and disuse, but it holds. Barely. Already the hut feels colder than it did yesterday. You shuffle back toward the fire pit. Someone has kept it smoldering overnight, but it's low. It looks tired, like it's contemplating whether to go out for good. You feed it bits of kindling and dried moss and whisper threats of extinction. It finally catches. The warmth creeps back slowly, like someone rubbing your shoulders with lukewarm hands. Not comfort, not heat, just less bad. You look around the room. Everyone's still sleeping. The baby's mouth hangs open, catching cold air like a tiny, disappointed monk. Your uncle is snoring so deeply, it might count as seismic activity. You have a moment to yourself. And what do? You make tea. Sort of. You grab a handful of dried leaves and bark from the family stash a mix your aunt swears wards off frostbite and marital discord. You drop them into a tin cup and pour boiling water over the top. The resulting brew smells like boiled shoe with a hint of pine. You sip. It's bitter, almost medicinal. It warms your throat, like an apology you weren't expecting. Outside, the sky is darker than usual. You peer through the slats in the shutter and see heavy low clouds, gray like ash, thick like sheep's wool. The kind of clouds that promise a storm. You dress quickly, not because you're in a hurry, but because standing around half-dressed is an excellent way to become a cautionary tale. Today's job, reinforce the roof. Again. Snow is heavy. It presses down on the thatch like a giant toddler. And when it melts just a little, then freezes again, it turns your roof into a deadly leaking cake of misery. You climb the ladder carefully. The rungs creak. You try not to think about the last time someone fell. Your cousin still has a lopsided smile. Up top, the view is white. Just endless, oppressive white. The wind hits harder here. You crouch, low hands moving quickly. Add straw. Tie it down. Pat it flat. Pray to whatever spirit governs roof maintenance. You finish just as the first flake falls. A big one. Slow and deliberate. Then another. And another. By the time you get down, it's snowing in earnest. You shake off what you can and head inside. The fire welcomes you like a cat that might bite you later but is warm for now. Your mother has started boiling bones. A broth, technically. Though calling it that might be generous. The bones are from the rabbit a few days ago, cracked open and scraped clean. Into the pot, they go along with onion peelings and the last scrap of something green. The smell is oddly comforting. You breathe deeply and remember dinners that actually had courses. Well, course, singular. While it simmers, you tend to the boots again. One has a hole the size of a walnut. You patch it with leather cut from an old belt. It's stiff, awkward, and looks ridiculous, but your foot will thank you. Others tend to tasks silently. A new rope is being braided. Someone's carding wool with 2 pieces of wood covered in tiny nails. The goat is trying to chew on a spoon. Midday. The storm outside has picked up. Snow now whips past the window in gusts. The walls groan. A strange whistle slips through the thatch, a high, lonely sound, like the wind is singing to itself. The hut darkens, the light outside fading fast. You eat your lunch quietly. Bone broth in a wooden bowl. It's thin, barely salty, but hot, and that's what matters. Afterward, you go outside once more. It's miserable. Your cloak catches the wind like a sail. Snow clings to every edge of your clothing, melting instantly against your body, soaking into the fabric, then freezing again. You check the animal pen. One chicken has decided it's not interested in living through this. It's curled up, eyes closed. You scoop it up, tuck it under your cloak, and carry it inside. It protests weakly. You place it near the hearth. The pig grunts, but makes space. Your sister lights a small oil lamp. It's a gift from a traveler years ago. It burns with a tiny, steady flame fueled by rendered fat and held together with bone and beeswax. You stare into it, hypnotized. It's warm inside now. Not because the fire is bigger, but because the outside world is so much worse. Everything feels relatively better when there's a blizzard outside. This is how winter teaches gratitude, not with kindness, but contrast. You sit near the fire with your family. You don't talk much. Words waste breath. But the silence is shared, not lonely. The goat farts. Loudly. Everyone groans. Someone throws a bit of straw. The goat does not care. Later, your grandfather tells a story about a man who married a snow witch. She promised him warmth if he gave up his shadow. He agreed, but then lived forever in sunlight, unable to sleep, unable to dream. You don't know what it means. You lie down early. The storm howls outside, but inside, it's steady, still, safe. You wrap yourself in your cloak, then a blanket, then your own arms. The fire cracks once. You drift into sleep with the taste of bone broth still on your tongue. And for the first time in days, you dream of spring. The storm doesn't end. Not by morning. Not by noon. Not even by the strange blue hour when the sky pretends it's evening, though the sun hasn't truly risen all day. It just lingers, thick, heavy snow, swirling through the air, like angry flour in the hands of a clumsy cook. You wake with your hair frozen to the straw, literally. A slow, crunchy attempt at sitting up reveals the truth. Sometime in the night, the roof leaked again. Not a lot, just enough to drip cold water down onto your pillow. That water froze. Your hair joined it. And now the entire side of your head is stuck to a mess of straw frost and regret. You consider your options. Panic? No. Scream? Not worth it. So you do what any sensible person would: reach for a sliver of warm broth from last night's pot, dip your fingers in, and gently melt your way to freedom. One slow, wet, humiliating clump at a time. No one comments. This kind of morning is standard. Breakfast. A weak attempt. You gnaw on yesterday's flatbread, which has become more artifact than food. It breaks apart like ceramic. You soak it in broth to soften it. Some of it does. The rest dares you to try chewing. Outside, the storm is louder. The wind doesn't howl. It screams, a high keening sound, like the wail of an angry ghost trapped in a barrel. Snow presses against the shutter, finding the smallest gaps, whispering in frozen syllables. The fire is struggling. You and your brother take turns blowing on it. Gently, with all the affection of a mother cat grooming a kitten. Eventually it grows, not much, but enough to keep the cold from claiming your toes outright. The animals are restless. The pig is pacing, which is deeply unsettling in a room this small. The goat keeps trying to eat the blanket. The chickens have huddled under the bench like tiny feathered hobbits waiting out the end of days. You spend the morning weaving more reed mats. They line the walls. The floors, even your bedding, not for comfort, just for insulation. Each layer between you and the winter is a tiny act of rebellion. One more thread in the fragile shield you pretend is a house. Someone suggests reading. You all laugh. No one here can read. You've heard of it, monks in far-off abbeys, writing in books with gold leaf and ink made from crushed beetles. You've seen a book once when a traveling friar passed through. He opened it, ran his finger along the letters, and smiled like he was touching fire. You still remember the smell leather dust and something sacred. Instead, your grandfather tells a story. Not about heroes or kings, but about survival. A winter from his youth. Worse than this, he says. He always says that. He remembers snow as tall as the trees. No food for a week. Wolves at the edge of the yard. His mother burned her wedding veil for kindling. He still has the brooch. You believe most of it. Maybe not the wolves, but the veil definitely. By mid-afternoon, the roof leaks again. You place a clay bowl beneath the drip. The sound it makes, soft plink-plink, is oddly rhythmic, like a lullaby composed by despair. Lunch is delayed. No firewood. Again. You bundle up. Every layer. Every shawl, tunic, scarf, sock, and animal pelt you can find. You wrap your hands in old cloth and step into the storm like a reluctant hero from a tale that never ends well. Visibility is 0. You can't see the trees. You can barely see the house once you step away from it. But you know the path, or rather your feet do. They've walked it 100 times. They remember the dips, the roots, the rock shaped like a badger. The woodpile is barely there. Snow has swallowed most of it. What remains is damp and reluctant. You dig like a dog, fingers stinging, breath short. You find a few sticks, half a log, 2 chunks of bark. It will have to do. You return as the wind shrieks louder. The snow is now ankle-deep inside your boots. You dump your haul beside the fire collapse in front of it and hold your hands out like you're begging for mercy. Your sister lights a taper from the embers and smiles. You're not dead, she says. Yet you answer. Dinner is back to pottage. Of course, thinner than before. It tastes like boiled sorrow with a hint of ash. You eat every drop. Outside, the storm continues. Inside, someone hums again. A wordless tune older than the hut. A melody shaped by frost and repetition. You hum along, not because you know the song, but because you know the feeling. Later, you try to sleep. You're layered, bundled, and pressed between 2 siblings and a goat. Your nose is cold. Your toes are colder. But the pig is a furnace tonight, and the fire hasn't died. You lie awake for a while, listening. The wind, the plink of the leak, the soft rustle of straw as someone turns over in their sleep. You whisper a quiet hope into the dark. Let the snow stop. Let the fire last. Let tomorrow be survivable. Then you close your eyes and let the storm scream itself. Tired, the storm stops without warning. You wake to silence, not peaceful, not gentle, but thick and eerie, like someone pressed a heavy woolen blanket over the entire world. There's no wind, no rustling, no moaning boards, just stillness and light. Blinding, burning, reflective light pouring through the cracks in the shutter like molten silver. You blink, squint, and then hiss. It's worse than darkness, this light. It bounces off the snow and slaps your eyes like you've offended the sun personally. You sit up slowly, every joint protesting. The pig has shifted sometime in the night, leaving a pig-shaped depression in the straw and a distinct smell you'll politely not describe. The goat is chewing on your cousin's sleeve. No one seems to mind. You open the shutter, and the world is white. Not just snow-covered, but sculpted. The storm has carved the village into shapes you barely recognize. Huts are buried to the roofline. Fences vanish beneath smooth, undisturbed drifts. Trees look like frozen ghosts. Limbs bowed and brittle. It's silent because the snow is deep. So deep it's swallowed sound itself. You step outside. Or rather, you try. The door only opens halfway. You push harder, and it groans open, revealing a wall of snow nearly up to your chest. You pause, close the door, and go back to find the spade. Time to dig your house out of itself. Your brother joins you, and together you begin the slow, sweaty work of carving a path from the hut to the pen. The snow is heavy, wet, and stubborn. Each shovelful sticks to the tool like it's offended. It takes an hour to reach the animals. They're fine, mostly. The chickens look shell-shocked. The goat is indignant. The pig didn't even go out. It's still inside, happily farting near the fire. Like winter is someone else's problem. You feed them quickly, then turn your attention to the roof. The snow load is dangerous. Your father says so, and he knows, because he once watched a neighbor's roof cave in and bury 3 ducks and a toddler. So you climb up again and begin pushing snow off in slow, careful arcs. It falls with heavy thuds. Below, your cousin has taken up the get-hit by surprise snowball roll with quiet dignity. He'll thaw eventually. You finish and climb down, soaked through breath ragged. Your mittens are useless. Your hands red and trembling barely respond when you try to undo the scarf around your neck. Back inside, the fire is roaring. Thank the saints. You hold your hands out, slowly turning them until sensation returns with a sharp, almost angry intensity. You sit on the floor cloak, steaming, watching the water pool around your feet as the snow melts off you. Your mother ladles broth into a cup and hands it to you without a word. It's hot and slightly salty and tastes like you didn't freeze to death. You sip slowly, and for a moment nothing else matters. This is what passes for comfort. Later, the villagers gather. Not in a hall or church, those are snowed in. They meet by the well, where the snow is now trampled into a slick mess. Wrapped in every layer they own, they exchange information. A chimney collapsed at the miller's hut. 2 pigs escaped and were found asleep in someone's bed. A tree fell across the grain shed, but missed the barrels. One woman swears she saw a wolf. Another says it was her husband. Laughter short and dry crackles in the cold air. Even humor freezes here. You help shovel paths between huts, narrow winding trenches through the village like tunnels in a fortress. Children turn them into games, chasing each other around corners, slipping, laughing, crying. All part of the experience. Mid-afternoon, the sun appears. You stare at it. It's real. Not warm. Not friendly. But present. Its light glints off the snow, casting everything in painful brilliance. The whole village squints. It's like staring into a celestial mirror that hates you. Still, it lifts something in your chest. Maybe not joy, but the memory of it. Your family decides to try washing clothes again. You haul snow into the pot, let it melt over the fire, then dunk shirts and tunics into the warm bath of ash and soap. They steam. So do you. It smells clean. Almost. You hang them near the hearth where they'll take 3 days to fully dry and 2 more to smell slightly less like goat. Dinner is special tonight, not because of the ingredients, just turnip and flatbread again, but because of the company. Everyone's a little lighter. The storm is over. No one died. The roof held. The pig remains inside, yes, but that's its own minor miracle. You eat slowly, thoughtfully. Someone opens the special jar berries preserved in honey from last summer. Just a spoonful each. It's tart sweet and tastes like something from another life. You close your eyes while it melts on your tongue. You remember warmth. Not fire warmth. Sun warmth. The kind that touches your skin and doesn't hurt. You remember bees. The buzz in a clover field. The way your feet would itch from running barefoot through grass. How your mother used to scold you for climbing the orchard trees. How the apples tasted when they were still warm from the sun. It feels like a dream. But dreams are allowed tonight. Later, as the fire dies down and the hut grows quiet, your grandfather hums. Not a story, just a tune. No one joins in. You lie down, eyes heavy, stomach not quite full, but not empty. The snow has stopped. The stars are out. And maybe the worst is behind you. You press your face into the straw and smile. Spring feels closer than it did this morning. You wake to sunlight. Real sunlight. Not the dim, apologetic glow you've grown used to. This is bold, golden, warm-looking sunlight, slicing through the cracks of your hut like an overdue apology from the sky. You blink. You squint. You try not to get your hopes up, but hope creeps in anyway. It's warmer. Not warm. You'd never be so naive. But warmer. Your breath doesn't form icicles the moment it escapes. The pig hasn't buried itself under the straw. Even the goat looks mildly less furious at existence. You step outside, and the world is blinding. The snow is everywhere, but now it sparkles. The sky is that pale blue you only see when the cold has cleaned every speck of filth from the air. And under your feet, the snow has begun to sink. Melting. Just a little. Just enough to give way under your boots with a soggy complaint. Your first task, drain the ditch. Water is pooling where snow once ruled. The trench that carries waste from the animal pen has backed up, and now it's threatening to send a very different kind of flood toward your door. You grab a stick and begin the delicate work of clearing muck and frozen slop from the runoff. It smells like something from a terrible legend. Your brother joins you. Neither of you speaks. There are no words for this kind of job. Only grunts and glares and the occasional gag. By midday, the sun is still holding. The snow drips from the eaves in gentle rhythms. The whole village seems to exhale. You take this chance to walk. Not far, just to the edge of the woods, to see if the path is clear. It isn't. But the snow has softened. You can push through it now without feeling like it's trying to murder your knees. The trees are still bare, but the wind moves differently here. It carries birdsong. Faint. Shy. You freeze. Birds. You haven't heard them in weeks. You scan the branches and spot it a small brown thing flitting between twigs. Nothing special. Just alive. And that's everything. You head home lighter, not just because your cloak is drying, but because something in you now really believes that winter might lose. Back at the hut, your mother is baking. Actual baking. Not ash-cooked discs of survival. She's taken the last of the flour and mixed it with rendered fat and dried berries. The result is small, round, slightly burned and glorious. You bite into it and tears form, not from emotion from the heat, but you let them fall. It tastes like effort, like care, like something a bit better than just not dying. Afterward, you tend to the tools. The hatchet needs sharpening. The spade has cracked. The pitchfork is missing a tine. You sit by the hearth with a stone and begin grinding the edge of the blade. Sparks fly. metal shrieks. It's oddly satisfying. Your cousin helps with the pitchfork, using a bit of scrap iron from the blacksmith's discard pile. It won't be pretty, but it will stab hay again, and that's what counts. Maintenance is the song of the season now. Roofs, shoes, gutters, bones. Everything needs mending, even you. So you take some of that honeyberry mix, just a dab, and smear it on a cracked lip. It stings, then soothes. Your mother notices. She nods quietly, proud. Later you take inventory. You count roots in the cellar, check the dry beans, shake the sacks of oats. There's enough to get through a few more weeks. Maybe a month. If spring arrives on time. If no one else falls sick. If the chickens lay early. It's a lot of ifs, but it's better than maybes. Dinner is quieter than usual. Not solemn, just calm. The food is simple, warm, and filling. The fire burns evenly. The goat has fallen asleep against the wall snoring. The pig doesn't even try to steal anyone's portion. Your grandfather skips the story tonight, says his throat's dry. You offer him a cup of boiled pine needle tea. It smells like regret, but soothes the throat. You lie down early. Not because you're tired, but because lying down under a blanket that doesn't smell quite as bad as usual is its own kind of celebration. The straw has been changed recently. The blanket has fewer holes. You turn onto your side and listen. The wind has lost its edge. You hear a trickle of meltwater from the roof. And again that bird song. Louder this time. Outside winter lingers, but inside, there is rest. And maybe, if you're lucky, dreams. You dream of green. Green hills, green leaves, green things that aren't mold on stored turnips. And when you wake, that dream clings to your skin like morning mist. You blink. The fire's still smoldering. The air still stings a little, but there's moisture in your nose. Real honest wetness. Not frozen. Not crusted. You sniff. And your mother, without looking up from the hearth, mutters, "Spring's coming." You don't ask how she knows. She just does. All the mothers do. The same way pigs know when it's going to rain, or goats sense an argument. You throw off your blanket, only slightly damp from shared humidity, and stretch. Your joints crack in sequence like a musical instrument with terrible tuning. Today is the great thaw. Not the last thaw, mind you, but the first one that makes mud. And that means new chores. Important ones. Like digging out the tools you left buried under the snow 3 weeks ago. Your brother finds a hoe. Rusted. Bent. Still loyal. Your cousin pulls out a bucket. Frozen solid. Cracked along one side. You try not to look disappointed. It was the good bucket. The snow has pulled back from the edges of the hut, revealing things long forgotten. A lost mitten, a dead mouse last summer's shoe. You gather what's salvageable. The rest gets tossed into the midden heap, which is thawing just enough to make you gag every time you walk by. You try breathing through your mouth. It helps until it doesn't. Mid-morning, you join the village for roof watch. It's an annual event. Everyone goes hut to hut, inspecting thatch, checking for collapsed leaks. Mold rats, and those birds that nest early and poop like royalty. You take turns poking ceilings with sticks. One neighbor's roof collapses mid-check. No one is hurt, but the laughter is relentless. He swears. You all help him rethatch. It's the only real entertainment this week. You return home feeling oddly optimistic. The snow is still here, sure, but the air is shifting. It smells soft, like wet earth tree bark, thawed dung, and whatever plant had the audacity to bloom too soon. You open the storage cellar and take stock. The potatoes are sprouting. That's good and bad. It means they're alive, but also means they're trying to escape. You pluck the shoots, set them aside, and whisper apologies to each wrinkled tuber. The beans look fine. The dried fish looks exactly as unappetizing as ever. The turnips have gone rubbery. You sigh and close the hatch. Lunch is onion soup. Technically, it's water boiled with onion skins and a hint of salt. You drink it slowly, pretending it's stew. The heat is real at least. And someone's added wild garlic. It tastes like ambition. Afterward, you walk to the stream. It's awake. You hear it before you see it, a trickle, then a gurgle, then the unmistakable splash of moving water. It's broken through its icy crust, a snake writhing through the snow, sluggish but determined. You kneel beside it and dip your hands in. Cold, yes, but not numbing. You cup some and drink. It tastes of rocks and freedom. Your sister finds you there, so you help her fill jars. The water's clearer than it's been in weeks. Less ash, fewer bugs. You carry the jars back, careful not to slip. Mud has replaced ice, and it's a betrayal of a different kind. Back home, your aunt is brushing her hair. This is significant. She hasn't done that since Yule. The comb moves slowly through the tangles. Bits of straw and lint fall out. She hums. And for a moment the hut feels like it might become a home again. The goat escapes that afternoon. You don't know how. No one does. But suddenly, she's in the yard dancing through the slush like a drunk noblewoman. You chase her. Your cousin chases her. The pig watches unimpressed. Eventually, she gets stuck in the snowbank and bleats until you dig her out. You haul her back inside, both of you panting and filthy. The moment you set her down, she pees on the floor. Your mother hands you a rag. You clean it up. Evening comes with colors. Not the usual gray or blue, but pink, orange, hints of red. The clouds catch fire, and the whole village glows like the inside of a hearth. You stand outside, cloak wrapped tight, and watch. Your grandfather joins you. Spring, he says. One word, heavy with meaning. Then he coughs and goes back inside. You stay a little longer, just until the colors fade. Dinner is richer than usual. A hen laid an egg. One single glorious egg. Your mother beats it into the soup. It thickens, deepens, feels like feast. Everyone eats slowly. Your sister licks the bowl. No one stops her. That night you sleep deeper, not just from exhaustion, but from something else. Relief. The worst may be over. Your blanket is softer. The straw pokes less. Your limbs ache a little less. You breathe through your nose again. And when you close your eyes, your dream returns not of green this time, but of sun. Actual burning golden sun. And for once, it doesn't feel like a lie. The next morning, the egg hen is gone. Vanished. Not eaten, just missing. Your brother swears he saw her yesterday perched smugly on the water barrel, clucking like she invented eggs. But today, nothing. No feathers, no prints, no polite farewell. You form a search party. It's less heroic than it sounds. Just you, your cousin, and the pig, who joins uninvited, but is surprisingly motivated by the potential return of eggs. You check the usual hiding spots behind the wood pile, under the cart, inside the storage hut. No chicken. You're halfway to accepting she's either become dinner for a fox or founded a breakaway poultry republic when your cousin yells. He's found her. In the old herb bed, under a pile of frozen nettles, sitting on a clutch of 7 eggs. 7. You carry her back like a queen. The village practically celebrates. 7 eggs means 7 meals, or if you're lucky, 7 new hens. You spend the next hour debating whether to eat them or hatch them. Your mother chooses to hatch. The long game. You nod, pretending to agree, while privately mourning the soup that could have been. That afternoon, you do laundry. Real laundry. Not just boiling the lice out of underclothes. You drag everything out. Blankets, cloaks, even your mother's wedding tunic. You build a fire outside, heat a cauldron of water, and start scrubbing. It's awful. Your hands go red and raw. The soap stings every scratch. The wind cuts through your damp clothes like a blade. But by evening, the linens hang in the sun like flags of victory. The whole hut smells faintly of clean things. It's suspicious. Later, you wash yourself. Again. Not a proper bath. Just a bowl of cloth and a determination not to smell like pig for one night. You scrub your face, neck, armpits, and feet. Everything else can wait. You change into your least stiff tunic. It feels like wearing forgiveness. Dinner is mostly broth. Again. But someone found wild sorrel and added it. It tastes sharp and green. You chew slowly, imagining it as salad. A word you've only heard once from a peddler with suspiciously white teeth. Afterward, your grandfather tells a story you've never heard before. A tale about a boy who ran away in spring, chasing warmth. He met a talking hare who tricked him into eating grass, then laughed and turned into a man. The boy returned home with long ears and a terrible sense of direction. You all laugh. Hard. It's not funny. But you're tired, warm, and no one died this week. That's reason enough. The wind picks up again at bedtime. You frown. The warmth had lulled you. But winter is a liar. It always comes back for one more bite. You stuff the cracks in the wall with straw. Pull the blanket higher. Move closer to the goat who grumbles but doesn't kick. You sleep, but it's lighter now. Half an ear open for storms. One eye on the future. The world is thawing, but it still remembers. So do you. You wake to bird song. Not just one brave little chirp, but a full concert. Somewhere out there in the snow-dented hedges, a feathered lunatic has declared war on winter by singing about it. Loudly, relentlessly, as if sheer volume could melt ice. And honestly, it's working. You stretch. Your joints ache less. Your fingers don't feel like frozen sausages. Even the goat looks smug, chewing her cud in the corner, like she's personally responsible for the change in season. Breakfast is warm. Thin barley porridge with a splash of goat's milk, a luxury. You can't remember the last time your stomach felt lined before noon. You eat slowly, savoring the feeling of not being in active distress. Afterward, you take the slop bucket out and notice the mud. Real mud. Slushy, slippery, vaguely brown, yes. But mud. Not ice, not frost-hardened crust. Earth unthawed and slightly offended at being exposed again. You grin. The world is waking up. You spend the morning helping your father check the fences. The wood is soggy and soft. Some posts have tilted like drunk men, but it's holding. Mostly. You hammer one back into place using a rock. It splits. You swear quietly. He hands you a fresh steak and smiles. Later, your mother asks for water. Fresh, from the stream. You volunteer. You wrap yourself in your not-quite-warm cloak, grab the buckets, and make the short hike. The snowbanks have shrunk. Not gone, but cowering. The stream gurgles. Open alive, slightly muddy. You kneel and fill the buckets, watching the current swirl around your fingers. You linger just a moment, listening, feeling, letting yourself believe the world might actually be moving forward. On the way back, you spot green. Tiny shoots. Shy, but real. You stare at them like they're treasure. Bend down. Touch one gently. It's alive. You return home grinning, barely noticing the mud on your boots. Lunch is wild onion soup. Your mother found the shoots near the garden wall, and they taste like bite and spring, and something dangerously close to joy. You burn your tongue a little. Worth it. That afternoon, you dig. Not graves, not latrines, but rows. In the garden. It's not quite ready, but the ground is soft enough to tease apart. You and your brother hack at the soil, mixing in ash, pulling out rocks, pretending to know what you're doing. The pig tries to help. It mostly just digs holes where you don't want them. But no one stops her. She's part of this too. Later, your sister pulls out the seed pouch. It's old, frayed, stored in a pot during the worst weeks. Inside hope. Tiny dry hope in dozens of varieties. She spills some into her palm, and you all stare like it's gold. Peas, beans, maybe kale. You whisper blessings over them, literally. Your grandfather insists. Something about warding off blight rats and those fairies that pull up carrots when no one's looking. You plant a few, just to feel the motion again. The soil is cold, but not frozen. That night, everyone is tired. In a good way. That kind of weary that feels like progress, like you used your muscles on purpose instead of just to resist death. Dinner is flatbread. Again, but warm and crisp around the edges. Someone found dried herbs and crushed them in. It tastes like ambition. You sit by the fire and repair socks. Your cousin retars the bottom of his shoes with leftover fat. Your sister braids her hair for the first time in weeks. Someone sings, just softly, an old song older than your grandfather about planting in hope and reaping in rain. No one remembers all the words. Doesn't matter. The hut is warm. The pig snores. The goat stretches. You lie down on your straw mat and stare at the roof, which hasn't leaked in 2 whole days. Spring is not here yet, but she's knocking. And this time, you might open the door. Morning arrives with bells. Distant at first, like someone dropped a bundle of metal in the next village. But then rhythmic, steady, echoing across the valley with a purpose. It's Sunday, and that means church. Not everyone goes. Some stay behind to tend the animals' repair thatch or recover from yesterday's enthusiasm for soup and storytelling. But your family, devout and proper in the winter weeks when even God feels nearer, bundles up and prepares for the walk. The church is 2 fields away. Not far except when those fields are half melted ice and 3/4 disappointment. You trudge in single-file boots, sinking skirts, dragging cloaks flapping like confused flags. Your brother slips. Again. He swears under his breath, and your mother pretends not to hear. The bell rings louder. A small stone church waits at the top of a low hill. It's older than your grandfather and colder than sin. Stone doesn't warm up. Ever. It just stores misery like a cellar stores potatoes. You step inside. It smells of wax-damp wool and centuries of incense layered over peasant breath. You find a seat on a bench that might actually be alive, judging by how much it creaks. The priest nods. Begins in Latin. No one understands, but everyone listens. It's not about knowing. It's about being there. Your mind drifts. You count the cracks in the stone wall. You trace the pattern in the stained glass window. You wonder who that saint is and why he looks so miserable. Probably had to go barefoot in snow. Someone coughs. Someone else sneezes. The baby behind you cries, then hiccups into silence. You try to stay awake. There's a story in the sermon today about a man in the desert who found God in a burning bush. You imagine a burning bush here, in the church. The warmth, the chaos, the blessed fire. You smile. After Mass, the courtyard fills, not with joy, but with chatter. News spreads fast in a cold village, and the church is where it travels best. Someone saw a trader downriver. Someone else says the monks might send barley seed this year. A girl claims she saw crocus flowers near the southern slope. Lies maybe, but it's all hope. You walk home slower. The sun is stronger today. You feel it on your back like a gentle push. The snow is shrinking. The mud is deepening. And still, you smile. Back at the hut, you change out of your good tunic. It's not fancy, just slightly less patched. You hang it up carefully, like it might be needed for a feast someday. Lunch is bread and broth. No one complains. The outing itself was nourishment. In the afternoon, you join your grandfather in mending tools. He speaks softly about saints and snowfall, about sin and spring planting. You nod. Listen. Even if the words don't always connect. Then comes a new chore path clearing. The road to the southern meadow is passable, but barely. You, your brother, and 3 neighbors take spades and dig a winding path wide enough for the cart. It's backbreaking. The sun glares. Your feet squish. But it gets done. You feel proud. Ache proud. The best kind. That night the stars come out, clear, sharp, uncaring. You step outside just to see them. The moon hangs low and full, casting shadows over the soft hills of half-melted snow. You hear something. A flute. Faint. Wavering. Someone's playing near the Mead hall. Curious, you walk toward it. The hall is lit. Dimly. Not a feast, just a gathering. Men and women hunched over drinks, some playing games with bones and dice, others staring into mugs like they hold prophecy. You hover near the doorway. Inside, the Lord Steward nods to you. Not welcome exactly, but not hostile. You slip in. Accept a cup of weak ale. Sip. The flute continues. A wandering bard, perhaps. Or just a bored cousin. But the notes are light, fast, full of thaw and thawing hearts. Someone laughs. Not the quiet, dry chuckle of winter. Real laughter. Loud. Thoughtless. You don't know what the joke is. Doesn't matter. You laugh too. Later, you slip out and return home. The hut is quiet. Your sister's curled by the fire darning socks. The goat snores. The pig has claimed the good corner again. Your mother nods half asleep, muttering prayers over her spindle. You lie down, tuck your cloak tight, and close your eyes. You dream not of fire, not of green, but of bells. Ringing, clear, far off, and the warmth that follows them. The bells fade, but the rhythm stays. Your body now wakes before light, not from cold, but out of sheer habit. You stretch careful not to bump the pig, who now assumes she owns your half of the straw mat, and listen. No wind, no dripping, no frost creak, just quiet, and underneath it a hum, the slow, gentle hum of the thaw working its fingers into everything beams soil bones. The fire is out, but your toes don't ache. You rise, and the floor isn't icy, just cold, manageable. You grin. This is dangerous optimism. You do it anyway. Your brother is already outside swinging a stick at the gutter. You ask why. He shrugs and says the icicles looked at him funny. Fair enough. Today the air smells of mud, wet bark, and goat. Spring has not arrived exactly, but it has sent a postcard. You're sent to collect firewood. Not from the pile, there's barely any left, but from the forest edge, where fallen branches might be dry enough to burn. The walk is easier now. Your boots squelch, your knees creak, but you can walk. You move past trees still wrapped in winter, past roots exposed by melt, and find your way to a patch of sun-warmed underbrush. There you find treasure, a dry hollow log. You tap it. It doesn't collapse. You drag it home like a hero returning from war. Your family greets the log with reverence. It is split. The insides dry, fragrant burn like promise. Midday, your cousin arrives with news. The neighboring village saw their first lamb, born healthy, already standing. This information spreads faster than fire. A lamb means grass. Grass means warmth. Warmth means survival. You eat your lunch soup, thickened with grain husks and one withered carrot, with something dangerously close to happiness. Then the announcement. Tomorrow, the field must be plowed. The Lord's steward is rounding up the oxen. Everyone must help. Your arms ache just thinking about it. The field is heavy with melt. The plow will sink. The oxen will complain. The mud will suck at your legs like hungry spirits. You spend the afternoon preparing the harness ropes. They've been chewed by rats, frayed from cold. You splice new ones, twist them tight, knot them with prayers and spit. Your mother sharpens the blade with slow, patient strokes. That night, you can't sleep. Not because you're cold, but because you're nervous. It's planting time, the most hopeful, heartbreaking part of the year. Tomorrow, you carve lines into the earth and whisper seeds into them, hoping some won't drown, hoping others won't rot, hoping a few will sprout stretch bloom feed. You lie awake thinking of the seeds, of the hands that saved them, of the weather that might crush them, of the future that might eat them. You hear a mouse scrabbling in the rafters. You let it be. Everyone's hungry. The goat farts. The pig grunts. You roll onto your side, stare into the dark, and whisper, "Let them grow." You're up before dawn, just like everyone else. No one speaks much. There's a quiet reverence to the day. The plow waits leaning against the fence like a forgotten relic. The oxen snort steam into the morning air, their breath curling like smoke from an ancient altar. You pull on your boots, double wrap your scarf, and step into the cold mud of early spring. It grabs your feet like it wants to keep them. The steward barks orders. Not cruelly, just urgently. There's only so much light, and the fields aren't going to furrow themselves. You're assigned to the rear of the plow. Not glamorous. It means following the blade, guiding the furrows, and occasionally getting hit in the face with dirt. You nod. Accept your fate. The first tug is the hardest. The oxen lean into the harness, groaning with effort. The blade bites the earth with a sound like tearing cloth. You push. You slip. You right yourself. Behind you, the soil opens. Dark, damp, steaming. It smells like rot and promise. You fall into rhythm. Step guide, shout step again. The mud sucks at your boots. Your arms burn. But the line behind you grows. A wound in the field ready for healing. Midday comes with flatbread and dried turnip. You sit in a circle with the others. Backs bent, faces flushed. Someone passes around a jar of last year's pickled something. It's sour and uncertain, but it wakes you up. You drink from the communal flask, water touched with vinegar. It stings your throat, but you welcome it. Everything today is sharp, clear, exhausting. After lunch, it's time for the seeds. You take a pouch and kneel at the head of a furrow. One seed at a time, pinched between frostbitten fingers, dropped into cold soil. You whisper to each, not because you believe it helps, but because you need it to. Grow. Stay. Please. The sky stays clear, a small mercy. The wind dies down. the work goes faster than you expect. By sunset, the field looks strange, not quite finished, not quite beginning, but definitely alive. Back at the hut, your mother warms water. You soak your feet one at a time in a basin lined with hot rocks. It hurts, then it heals. Your father checks your hands. Blisters. He gives you a salve that smells like pine and old cheese. You smear it on with care. Dinner is a celebration. Not in scale, just in spirit. Boiled roots, barley porridge. Someone found an onion. But everyone eats slowly, gratefully. The steward stops by. He's tired too. He brings a tiny gift, a crust of spiced bread from the manor kitchen. You break it into 10 pieces and share it out. It tastes like warmth remembered. Later, the stars come out. You lie beside the fire muscles, twitching with exhaustion. You hear the oxen lowing in the dark, the soft scratch of the mouse above. Your sister mumbling in her sleep about cakes. You don't dream. Your body is too tired, but you rest like a plowed field, opened, bared, ready. It rains. Of course it does. Not the pleasant, poetic drizzle of ballads. This is sideways rain, wind-whipped and mean. The kind that doesn't fall, but lunges. It hurls itself against the hut like it has a personal vendetta against your roof. You wake to the sound of it. First, the rhythmic thumping on the thatch. Then the slow drip from the leak above the door. A puddle has already formed near the hearth. You sigh. The goat sighs louder. Outside, the newly plowed field is turning into soup. You know, because your cousin went to check and returned missing both boots and his dignity. He spent 20 minutes fishing them out with a stick, then slipped and landed face first in next year's barley. Inside, it's manageable. The fire still burns. The roof only leaks in 3 places. The pig has decided she's not going outside for the next century and has curled up like a damp loaf near the coals. Today is a stay-inside day. But even that has rules. There's still work. First patch the cloaks. Your mother lays them out by the fire one at a time, inspecting each for holes, weak seams, and that smell cloaks get when they've been worn for 62 consecutive days. You sew, while she scrapes old grease into the seams, waterproofing, she calls it. You try not to gag. Next, the grain sacks. They've grown soft with moisture. You hang them near the rafters and stuff charcoal into the corners, an old trick for drawing out the damp. The charcoal gets everywhere. Your hands, your sleeves, your nose. You sneeze black dust for an hour. By mid-morning, the rain turns to sleet. Your cousin swears it's snow again. You call him a liar. He opens the shutter just enough to let a flake in. You both groan. Lunch is oatcakes. Flat bitter, with a smear of old cheese. You chew slowly. Not for savoring, just to delay the moment when it's gone. Someone suggests a story. Your grandfather refuses. Too wet, he says. The hut's too wet for stories. So your sister tells one instead. It's a bad story. Involves a talking duck and a haunted puddle. But everyone listens, because stories, bad or not, make the rain quieter. The pig farts at the climax. The timing is impeccable. Later you play knucklebones. Not for money. No one has any. Just pride. You win twice, then lose 5 in a row. Your brother claims luck, but you suspect cheating. The rain doesn't stop. By evening, it's heavier than ever. Your mother places a pot beneath the newest leak. It fills halfway by supper. Dinner is gruel, hot at least. You sit by the fire feet, tucked under the straw hands, wrapped around your bowl. Outside, the storm howls. Inside, you hum to yourself something your aunt used to sing before she got married and moved to the next village over. You wonder how she's faring. Probably just as wet. Before bed, you check the thatch again. Still holding. Mostly. You crawl into your corner of the hut, wrap yourself in your patchy blanket, and stare at the shadows on the ceiling. They flicker with the firelight, like ghosts dancing politely. You smile. You survived another rainy day. Not gloriously, not triumphantly, but thoroughly. And that's enough. The next day dawns blue. Clear blue. Impossible blue. The kind of sky that looks fake, like something painted by a monk who'd only ever read about summer in a book written by someone else. You blink against the brightness. After so many gray days, your eyes have forgotten what color is. And the world is wet, soaked, flooded in places. The snow has retreated to stubborn shadows, and in its place, slush, mud, rivers and paths where no rivers should be. The garden looks like a small pond. The pig is delighted. You are not. But you're grateful, because cold rain is better than cold death, and sun, even mocking sun, is better than storm. Today is laundry again. Proper this time. Everything must be aired. Blankets, cloaks, tunics, even the goat's winter coat gets a brushing. You string ropes between trees. Your sister hauls out the buckets. The fire is already roaring by the stream heating water in a borrowed pot. You carry each piece to the tub like it's a ceremonial offering. The first shirt yours is stiff with salt and sweat. It smells like honest labor and a little bit of goat. You scrub. You dunk. You beat it against a stone like it insulted your mother. It foams. Not much, but enough. Rinse. Wring. Hang. You repeat this process for hours. You laugh when the wind steals a sock. You curse when the water turns black from soot. You pause only once to peel your hands from each other. The cold has cracked them, and your fingers look like ancient bark. Lunch is fresh bread. Fresh. Bread. Not fancy. Not fluffy. But real bread from real flour ground this week, mixed with lard and a handful of chopped herbs. You chew slowly. You consider weeping. The bread is dense dry at the edges, but when dipped in soup it becomes divine. Soup today has nettles in it, and sorrel. It's green and sharp, and tastes like something a rabbit would approve of. The goat tries to steal some. Your cousin bops her with a ladle. She stares at him like a disappointed aunt. Afternoon is for fence repairs. The thaw has revealed damage hidden under the snow. Some rails are soft, others missing. The pigs got out twice already. Once they went straight to the neighbor's midden heap. You're still apologizing for that. You drag new branches from the woods, trim them, wedge them into place with stones and muttered prayers. The mud sucks at your boots. A chicken steals a worm you unearthed. The fence leans, but it stands. Progress. Back home, your mother checks the seed pouch again. She murmurs numbers, plans, weather guesses. You overhear her asking your father if he thinks the barley will take. He shrugs. If it doesn't snow again. It's not a joke. Not really. Dinner is a stew made from 5 things you don't recognize. It's delicious. Mostly because it's warm, and mostly because it's not gruel. Someone finds a turnip shaped like a foot. You pass it around. Everyone laughs. You promise to carve it into a saint later. Night falls slowly. You sit outside just for a bit wrapped in every dry piece of cloth you own. The air smells like smoke and thaw. You hear frogs. Actual frogs. Your heart leaps like you've seen a unicorn. Inside, your sister is braiding a garland from shed goat hair and wildflowers. She says it's for the maypole. It's barely April. She doesn't care. Your grandfather hums, not the sad tune, a different one, lighter, still slow, still soaked in years, but not sad. You lie down. The fire cracks, the pig sighs, the goat chews in her sleep, and you smile into the straw, thinking, if the sky stays blue tomorrow, you might plant something. Just a little, just enough to believe in again. The next morning you wake to singing. Not the birds this time, though they're certainly involved, but human singing. Faint wobbly off key. Probably your cousin. Definitely too early. But it's the sound of someone glad to be awake. And that's new. You smile. Today is planting. Not pretending to plant. Not checking the field. Not whispering to the seed pouch and hoping it doesn't snow. Actual planting. Your mother's already up, ladling out hot barley mash into wooden bowls. She adds chopped greens, new ones just foraged yesterday, and even a shred of old cheese for flavor. You eat it standing up. There's no time to sit. The seed baskets are ready. The plow furrows are dry enough to walk without losing your boots. The oxen are sleeping off yesterday's effort. You don't need them today. Today is about hands. You grab a pouch, sling it over your shoulder, and step into the field. The earth is soft, crumbling beneath your feet. It smells like breath and worms and old promises. The furrows yawn open beside you, waiting. You begin. One step, one seed, one gentle push of dirt. Repeat. You fall into rhythm. The field becomes a pattern. The pouch gets lighter. The rows get longer. Your back begins to ache in that slow, familiar way, like it's writing a letter of complaint to the gods. Your cousin hums while he plants. Your brother chants numbers under his breath, counting each seed like they owe him money. Your sister sings to hers. You just breathe. By midday, your fingers are black, with soil, your knees are stained, and your pouch is nearly empty. You stop for water, get clear, sweet cold, and sit beneath the edge of the fence. The field is half done. You stare at it like it's a new map, full of danger and hope. Lunch is rye biscuits and nettle soup. A feast by February standards. The biscuits are hard, but you dunk them. The soup is bitter, but alive. You eat in the sun, not near the fire, not wrapped in panic. In the sun. You finish the second half of the field slowly. Your legs don't want to bend anymore. Your back mutters threats. The pouch is so light now, it flaps against your hip like an empty scold. But you finish. You pat the last furrow like a sleeping dog and stumble back to the hut. Inside, your mother is weaving, not mending, not patching, weaving. A new mat from reeds soaked in brine. You watch her hands move slow, sure, older than time. Your sister sharpens knives, not for defense, for harvest. You dare to dream. Dinner is porridge with honey, not in the porridge. That would be ridiculous. Just a dot, a dab, a swirl at the bottom of the bowl. You find it on your last bite and nearly sob. Outside, the air is soft. You walk to the stream and sit on its bank. The frogs are louder now. The trees look swollen buds, forming like secrets under their skin. You see a duck, a real duck. It waddles past you like it owns the path, then vanishes into the reeds with a splash. You stay there a while, thinking, not surviving, just thinking. You return to the hut in twilight. Your brother's carving something. Your grandfather is asleep with a cup in his hand. The goat is dreaming again. She kicks in her sleep. Maybe fighting duck bandits. You'll ask her tomorrow. You lie down. The fire's still warm. The pig leans against your side like a warm, reluctant blessing. And you fall asleep without fear, without hunger, without cold, just peace, and maybe a little pride. Morning comes with birds, a dozen of them, maybe more, flitting between the trees, shouting over one another like it's market day. You lie there, listening half buried in your cloak, not quite ready to move. Not because you're cold, not because you're dreading chores, but because this is pleasant. You linger in bed. The pig has taken over your blanket again. The goat has managed to steal someone's sock and is chewing it meditatively. Your grandfather snores like he's auditioning for thunder. Eventually, you stretch, and it doesn't hurt. Your back pops. Your knees complain. But there's no ache in your fingers, no frost on your lashes. You roll out of bed, slap some straw from your tunic, and step outside. And freeze, not from temperature, but from awe. The first flowers have bloomed, just two tiny purple absurd little things, shoved defiantly through a patch of melted muck near the fence. You stare like they've insulted your ancestors. Then you smile. Today is roof day. Yes, again. Because now that the snow's melted, the real damage is visible. Mold leaks birds' nests rot. It's like winter had one last laugh before leaving. You help your brother carry up fresh thatch. Your cousin hands up tools. Your job is to patch and stomp, and hope gravity continues to work. Halfway through, your sister brings cider. Weak, cloudy, made from last year's sour apples, but cold and refreshing. You sip it like it's wine stolen from a bishop. Below, the village is alive. Children run between puddles chasing geese. A dog barks at a butterfly. Someone is singing while hanging laundry off key and too loud. You finish the roof. It's lumpy. It leaks slightly. You love it. Lunch is radish leaves and broth and a handful of peas. The peas are dried, rehydrated, slightly mushy. You savor each one like it's imported from Byzantium. Afterward, you and your brother go check the beehive. It survived. Mostly. There are fewer bees than last year. The hive's outer layer shows signs of a woodpecker attack. But when you knock, there's movement. Life. Buzzing. Promise. You mark it with a twig and whisper, "Thanks." Your sister makes garlands in the afternoon. Out of dandelions, mostly. Some tiny white flowers, too. She places one on your head without asking. You grumble. She grins. You keep it on. The neighbors stop by. Not for trade, not for crisis. Just to sit, to talk, to be together without needing a reason. Someone brings a pot of stew. Someone else brings a song. You pass a lute around. No one can play. Everyone tries. Your cousin gets 3 notes out of it before a string snaps, and everyone cheers like he won a war. The sun lingers late. Dinner is fish. Yes, fish. Someone actually caught a fish in the stream. A small one. Bony, but real. Your mother fillets it with care, stews it with herbs, and divides it into so many pieces it practically evaporates. Still, it's delicious. It tastes like celebration. Later, your grandfather finally tells a story. Not one of survival. Not saints or suffering. A love story. A ridiculous, impossible tale of 2 villagers who courted by sneaking onions into each other's sacks. You laugh. Your sister nearly chokes. Your brother pretends not to care, then asks for another. The fire burns low. The goat sleeps on your foot. You stretch out hands behind your head and watch smoke curl toward the rafters. No storm. No panic. No hunger gnawing the silence. Just warmth. And the slow, certain beat of spring unfolding. The day begins with dew. Real dew-fat droplets beating on leaves, catching light like a spell. You step outside barefoot just to feel the earth again. It's cold, wet, soft in places where the grass dares grow back. You wiggle your toes. It feels alive. Everything feels alive. The fields shimmer in morning mist. Smoke drifts from neighboring huts. A chicken perches on your fence chest, puffed like a bard about to recite something scandalous. You start your chores slowly, not from laziness, just from appreciation. Each task feels lighter. Fetching water is no longer a race against freezing. Gathering firewood isn't about survival, it's comfort. Even mucking the goat's corner comes with the satisfaction of routine. And the seedlings have sprouted. You nearly cry. Tiny green threads curled and blinking in the sunlight stretch from the furrows you helped dig. Your sister gasps beside you. Your mother says nothing, just crosses herself and turns away quickly. No one says it aloud, but you all feel it. They lived. The seeds lived. The afternoon is a flurry of activity. The Lord Steward calls a work crew to dig irrigation channels. Your cousin volunteers and drags you along. You dig in rhythm, your spade striking the earth like a metronome. Someone hums. Someone else starts a joke and forgets the punchline. You return home, covered in dirt, grinning. Later, the village gathers for the first outdoor meal of the season. It's not a feast, not yet, but it's real. A table made from barrels and planks. Dishes of boiled roots, foraged greens, hard cheese bread with actual salt. Even a pot of early wildflower tea slightly bitter and brewed too long. Children chase geese between benches. Elders watch from shaded stools. You sit on the ground, back against a barrel, sipping tea and swatting flies. The steward toasts the planting. Everyone cheers. Your grandfather sings. He's off key. He forgets half the words. You all join in. The sun lingers well into the evening. No rush to go inside. The pig finds a sunny patch and flops with a dramatic grunt. The goat chews on your sister's braid and gets swatted with a spoon. You lie on your back, eyes closed, arms out. The ground hums beneath you. Later the stars arrive. No clouds, just sky. You point out constellations your father taught you. Your brother insists one looks like a sausage. You don't argue. Back in the hut, you wrap yourself in your blanket, a thinner one now. The thick winter hide has been folded and packed away. You listen to the night sounds. Not storm, not wind howling through cracks. Just frogs. The occasional owl. The soft, rhythmic breath of those you love. You close your eyes, and for the first time, in what feels like years, you think you'll make it. Not just a summer, but beyond. The worst has passed. You bent. You nearly broke. But here you are, smelling like goat, covered in mud, blistered, bruised, hungry for joy. But here, and so is spring. Now the fire burns low, just a whisper in the hearth. You shift under your blanket, no longer desperate for warmth, but still drawn to the softness of sleep. The pig has stopped snoring. The goat miraculously hasn't stolen anything for the last hour. Even the mouse above seems to respect the quiet. Outside, the breeze stirs the trees gentle now, like the village itself is exhaling. The last of the stars blink overhead, like old friends keeping watch. And you've earned this. You made it through weeks of cold, of cracked hands, and empty bowls of wind that cut through wool and hope alike. You survived the endless gray, the freezing mud, the days where the only thing heavier than your clothes was your silence. But now the earth is soft. The seeds are in. The sun returns more quickly each day. And your bones, tired, aching, patched together with sweat and stubbornness, they finally rest easy. So let your thoughts drift now. Back to the warmth of the fire, the curl of smoke rising toward the beams, the sound of your mother humming without realizing, the weight of your sister's flower crown on your head, the first taste of real bread, the sure, slow breath of a season shifting. Let the night cradle you. Let the straw rustle just once more, and let your eyes close. You are safe. You are enough. You are home. Good night.